So, I'm not really used to a crowd like this. I just got a job in a preschool, so I'm used to 2 to 5-year-olds who stare at me and drool and don't remember much of anything I say, a few seconds after I say it. And they're really funny, actually. I have to take them into the bathroom sometimes, and the way the bathroom works there are like three toilets lined up. And the kids sit down or stand up depending on their ability. And they do their thing. And I'm not supposed to watch them because, they're big kids. So the other day I took 2 5-year-olds into the bathroom. And the 5-year-olds, they're pretty grown up. They're about to go into kindergarten. So they were holding a nice little conversation as they went in about their play date for the weekend. And I let them go into the bathroom, and I sat on the bench outside and was kind of sitting there looking at my watch, and couldn't help but overhear their conversation. And they were just talking about pooping. Because both of them were pooping next to each other. And they're really sweet girls. I know. You might think otherwise after all this talk about poop, but so they pooped, and then afterwards, they were sitting on the toilets, wiping, I presume, I hope, and one of them said to the other one, "Can I look at your poop?" And the other one said, thought about it, and then she said, "Yeah, if I can look at yours," which is like, it's a fair trade. And then I could hear they got off their toilets and looked at each other's poop. And there was a moment of silence. And then one of them said, "Yours looks like poop." And the other one said, "Yours does too." And then they flushed the toilets and washed their hands, and that was that. And it's just really cool how kids think. Like I think it's really cool looking at other people's poop. I think that's the moral of the story. Because everybody poops. But that's not why I'm here today. I'm here. Does anyone here know the storyteller Joel Ben-Izzy? Who? Oh yeah, he's great. I'm going to tell one of his stories. He's a really, really great storyteller. And last I heard, he was a professional storyteller, and I think he lost his voice, which is just a terrible, terrible thing to happen to a professional storyteller, but I think he got it back again. I'm not sure on the details. Anyways, this story takes place along the lines of these billions of folk tales. It takes place a long time ago in one of the great metropolises of the ancient world. And in this metropolis, there was a great swindler. And this swindler, he lived under the bridge, where he lived in piles of all of his swindled riches. And his friends would come by and they would play with all their jewels and handkerchiefs and other things they had swindled out of other people. And when they were bored, they would throw them in the river and watch them float downstream or sink, like diamonds sink, because some things were encrusted with diamonds. So, not only was he a great swindler, but he was a great pickpocket. He was actually the greatest pickpocket of this metropolis. And this metropolis was the greatest metropolis of the world at the time. So, from that we can logically conclude that he was the greatest pickpocket of the world at the time. And he would go around the streets early in the morning as everyone was walking around to get to their respective businesses. He would pick pockets. He would pick handkerchiefs, he would pick wallets. He would even steal rings off fingers. And one day he was out picking pockets, and he was reaching for this beautiful green handkerchief hanging out of someone's back pocket when he felt something tugging at his own pocket. And he said, "Hold up a minute. Is someone pickpocketing me, the greatest pickpocket of all time?" And he grabbed behind him, and he grabbed a hand. And he pulled the hand, and there was a slender brown arm. And he pulled the arm, and there was a shoulder. And it was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Next thing you know, they'd gotten married. These two pickpockets, these two incredible pickpockets had married. And like most married couples, they wanted a kid. So, 9 months later, with no complications, a baby boy was delivered. And they held the baby boy in their arms, and they said, "Oh, my child, you will be the greatest pickpocket of all time." But then they saw in his left hand, he was holding his left hand in a fist. And they tried to open the fist, and he wouldn't budge. And now anyone here who knows ancient pickpocket folklore knows that a closed left fist at the birth of a young boy is a terrible, terrible sign for a pickpocket. So they brought this young boy to many a doctor, and the doctors, they didn't know what to do. And the couple was very, very sad. Now it just so happened that a witch doctor had come into town, and the witch doctor came to town with all of her skulls rattling on sticks and powders and potions. And she came into town, and of course the first place she went, like any decent lower class person in the town, she went to the bridge, where this famous pickpocket lived, because she had heard of his ailment, and because he was so famous. And she said, "Can I take a look at this young boy?" The pickpocket said, "Yes, of course, we would love it if you would do that." And so she took the young boy in her hands, she took some lotion, rubbed it on his forehead, and then she said some prayers to him, and then she took his little fists curled up tight as can be, and she rubbed the knuckles gently, and one by one the fingers peeled open, and in the little boy's hand was the midwife's ring.